very excited to hold a medical device forum today. Medical device technologies represents one of the fastest growing industries in the U.S. According to a new Money Tree report, medical therapeutics accounted for nearly 2/3 of the dollars and 62% of the deals in the first quarter of 2011. In that same period, over $390 million was invested in 49 deals.
What I see going on in the marketplace right now, I was thinking about this coming into the panel. What are the patterns that I'm seeing that make something attractive as something in the medical device arena? Whether it's a VC, a PE, a strategic investor, a hybrid, what are the themes that are coming across? And it all boiled down, for me, to two words: smart convergence. If it's a standalone product or device or solution, it may be great in its particular niche, but at least the investors I'm talking to and working with, they're looking for broader solutions. The convergence of technologies, which is incredible going on right now. We've got wireless technologies, we've got new power systems, batteries that we never thought would be available to be able to power some of these devices. We've got the convergence of imaging technology. So you're seeing things like smart Band-Aids and smart pills coming out. And you're seeing the convergence of solutions, which is probably more important. I think we're going to see a combination of companies. So if you're positioning yourself, you ought to be thinking not just about exits, but who else you would partner with, who else you might combine with, what your technology would fit with down the road, and give that early thought to start to lay some of the pipe for making those partnerships and relationships come about.
The technologies that come out of universities and hospitals, you have to understand, have been born out of a research base that is answering questions in a very scholarly pursuit kind of way. And when you now are turning to commercialization, we hear that phrase translational research. You now have to start to apply a very different set of questions and a very different set of experiments to them. And that's where there's a big gap. There's a funding gap there, and there's a research design program gap. So, we talk often about fail faster experimentation and capital efficiency and that sort of thing in that time frame of translating something out of a university. For example, when something is being worked on in a university, faculty often don't necessarily want to do certain experiments that may take very little money that could help secure a licensee or help it get funding with a venture early stage fund or a VC, because it's not publication worthy, because it's not worthy of the careers of a postdoc or grad student who's working on it in the lab. Everything everyone works on in a lab in academia has to be worthy of publication and the next career steps of those people. And so sometimes you're mind boggled that they didn't do this one thing that would only cost $50,000 to do. And that's all that's standing between it and maybe getting funding or getting a licensee.
So doctors, inventors, your goal is to get it to the most attractive face you can to let the PE or the VC take it to the next stage. Their goal, why, to be honest, is, they want to take the next step and make money. Their goal is to get an exit and do that in a fashion, but not, I don't mean this is sort of a piracy of your product. They want to do it the best and most meaningful way, but if you can get all the legwork clinically done beforehand, you're well ahead of the game.
Although it is really hard to have them often know what they need to do. And a lot of the proposals we see that have come out of like a hospital lab setting, even with clinical studies, they're not clinical trials, they're clinical studies, don't have the design that would allow it to be taken to the FDA.
So as you look at sort of positioning yourself for strategic, should companies try to target one or two specific strategics that they're really packaging themselves for, or do you find that they should try to keep their options open? Do you have advice or an experience with anybody just comment on the strategic concept?
I think you should have a favorite because you know the marketplace really well in your particular domain. And if there's one company you know there's a weakness or a gap in the portfolio, and you have that product and you know it's going to take 2 or 3 years to bring to market for them to develop it, that's an automatic. But, you know, scan the marketplace.
Personally, I think it depends on what area you're in. I think in orthopedics, there's not going to be a lot of brand spanking new players, and you know them and they're stayed, and you should be continuing to align yourself with some of those, the strikers. In some other areas, if you are like an optical device or one of these diagnostic or something, you're a little more of a complex play or an imaging play, things are a lot more dynamic and you need to keep your eyes wide open. And there are going to be some household names that you never associated with healthcare getting into healthcare. And I mean, I think that some companies will make very big plays into healthcare.
And right now, I'm seeing companies, US-based companies with new technologies launching in Europe before they launch in the US, and lining up with the European strategic partner who sees it both as a product for that market. In some area, like the wireless arena, Europe's way ahead of us right now in terms of adoption and so forth. So you're seeing people go in that direction, and it has a double advantage in some cases for that strategic in Europe. It gives them additional product for their market, but it also gives them a channel back into the US.
You're both focused in this area. Can you tell the audience a little bit about some of the resources, the groups that you know of here that help entrepreneurs advance?
Only thing that makes it difficult in the Philadelphia area is there could be more money, but there are a lot of excellent groups, and we have Ben Franklin, which we've heard from Jen. There's BioAdvance. There's BioStrategy Partners, which is an organization that exists solely to help early stage companies, and they put on a monthly program called Practical Knowledge, and anyone who's thinking about a company startup should go there. Even more to the point, there's a really solid base of seasoned entrepreneurs around here, and most of them are willing to give advice to a startup for the price of a cheesesteak or less. So you really have a lot of good advisors. The Science Center is absolutely excellent. In fact, vascular magnetics exists because of the Science Center's QED program.
Have you found it difficult to target the right payor or the right market where you're going to find acceptance, or has that?
Absolutely. Actually, there was no model when we first came up with this product. There was no model how to get paid. The original design of the product was actually done for home care, and after about a year, we figured out that there's no way we'll get paid for it. So we actually changed the design to fit it into the hospital market. Hospitals actually do have the budgets to pay for this kind of product. In fact, now with the $19 billion coming from the federal government for EMR implementations, for the electronic medical record implementation, vital sign information going into the EMR has become a requirement. In fact, starting next year, that will be a requirement for most hospitals that get money for EMR implementation.
You can't be there's no such thing as being too networked. You never know when an opportunity about a financing, a collaboration, a partnering can come from, having your 5-minute elevator pitch ready when you meet someone at a conference. And I think, the organizations that put these on are very cognizant of the fact that, money is tight for these startup entrepreneurs, and most of them have very, I think, reasonable rates to attend those. Most are free, but usually the hallmark events have something. So I would encourage you to look at those, and they can be very helpful.
You don't want to go talking to your competitors if their stuff already works and they're going to be able to engineer around you. But generally, you don't want to hide your light under a bushel. You want to make yourself known. Get out there, talk to people, let them know who you are, because ultimately, if you're looking for an exit or for funding from a strategic, you're not going to see it unless they actually know you're out there and what you're doing and why it can work for them.
9 times out of 10, you'll end up needing more money than you think you will to start with. So I think that is maybe one of the things you must keep in mind, that you just raised money, you know for sure you will need more beyond that point. And you must have a plan which makes sure that you will have some revenues, and where the revenue is going to come from, especially in the early stages. And if you can survive for the first few years, then I think you have a much better chance of getting someplace after that.
We have a great area for academic research, and we have a great area for people coming out of big companies. But the downfall to that can be on the financial side, is people coming out of academia sometimes want to pursue the core R&D and don't necessarily focus on what has to get done to get to the next level. And conversely, the people in the big pharma side came from a place where their budget may have been, you know, $125 million for core research. So sometimes what I've observed and heard from my clients is that it takes a little bit of a climate change for those individuals coming from that, either of those two backgrounds, to figure out that we have limited resources, and while the pursuit of a type of research or trial, if it's not directly on point on what we need to go to the next inflection point or to get to the next financing, it can't be done. We don't have that. And that's where the finance executive or a person working in that capacity has to be very disciplined and look at that, because it's critical to making sure you have a contingency if something takes longer.
It's nice to say that you can keep your secret sauce hidden as a trade secret. And you can do that if you're doing something like manufacturing, where the secret sauce never actually leaves your four walls. But when you're manufacturing or planning to manufacture something that's going to go out there in the real world, people are going to try to reverse engineer it. So you need the patent protection, especially to give yourself at least some time. I mean, the answer, of course, that that somebody can use your patent as a recipe for reverse engineering is totally true. So one of the important things, and this is not a plug for our hosts, but it is important to get a very good patent attorney right from the get-go.